Hi, so if you saw last week's video, this is Aaron. He just graduated from Warwick Economics and he's going to be starting as an investment banking analyst here in London. So if you have not seen already, this is his house. I just did a house tour last week, and for this week's video, he will be sharing his journey as a Warwick Economics student to getting a job in investment banking in London. So Aaron, would you like to tell us more about yourself?
My name is Aaron. I'm currently a fresh graduate from the University of Warwick. So I studied economics in the university, and I'm currently an incoming analyst at Barclays Investment Bank.
Okay, maybe Aaron, you want to share, is investment banking a popular track for economics students? And what are some of the clubs and societies you did at Warwick that you think helped you?
Right, so I get this question a lot. And let me just say that for economics students, the two most popular tracks, as you would imagine, are consulting and investment banking. So investment banking, the recruitment process actually starts from the first years when you have spring week programs. So many of my friends actually got into a spring week program. They converted that into an internship and they finally converted their offer into a full-time offer. But that's not my route because I didn't manage to get a spring week, so I had to apply for the summer program in my second year. As for my clubs and societies, when I was in first year, I took up squash. So I joined the Warwick squash team. I took up a position as the finance and sponsorship officer of the Warwick Economic Summit. So there I actually helped plan and manage the finances for Europe's largest academic student-led conference. And I also joined the Warwick Consulting Society as a junior executive member. So that's what I did my first year. In my second year, I continued in my squash, but I took on an additional position as the business development head of the Warwick Incubator Society, which is UK's largest student-led incubator society. I also took on a position as the captain of the Warwick Singapore Society football team. So where my team and I actually play in the Wednesday leagues for Warwick Sport. So that's what I did in my second year. And in third year, because of COVID, unfortunately, we couldn't progress with many activities. So I just continued my own venture called LAH, which I'll talk about later.
Like you mentioned, you didn't do the spring weeks. Then can you talk about the application process towards getting an internship for IB?
Sure. So the application process actually starts at the end of your first year. So immediately after you get your examination results, about June, that's when the applications for summer internships will open up for all the bulge bracket banks and elite boutiques. However, a point to note is that the smaller boutique firms actually do recruitment all year round. So I have friends who actually email firms directly and secure offers like that. But if you're talking about, the traditional Goldmans, Barclays, the bulge brackets, summer internship applications open in June/July. So you have to prepare early. It's quite a fast-paced cycle. Many of them are rolling applications in the sense that, you gotta be first to apply to get an advantage in the application process. How it usually works is that you submit your CV along with a cover letter to the firm's portal, and thereafter you get an invite to psychometric tests, which are little games that you play. They can include mathematical tests, ethical questions, they can include situational judgment tests, but generally it's quite enjoyable. It can get a little bit tiring and tedious, but once you get a hang of it, you'll realize that many firms use the same provider for the test. So many of the questions are actually similar. So that's just a tip. And after you get selected, if you pass the test, if you get selected for follow-up interviews, they can range from phone interviews first, or it can be a direct invite to an assessment center. So for those firms, for example, if I recall, Morgan Stanley has phone interviews before invites to the assessment center. So they can range from just one phone call with a director, or you can go up to 2 or 3 phone calls. For instance, I remember when I was applying for sales and trading in Morgan Stanley, I received 2 phone interviews before I got the assessment center. So once you reach the assessment center, it can range from group activities, or it can be a series of simultaneous interviews where they test you on your technical knowledge and they also test you on your behavioral aptitude. So depending on what kind of assessment center style is conducted, you have to adapt your interview technique to it. So for group interviews, you usually want to be the one who is not the loudest. You don't want to be the loudest and most assertive person because it may come across as very dominant and very abrasive. So you want to be the person who actually contributes to the team by giving ideas, but not by being pushy, but by being consultative with a team, asking for feedback and roping in the quieter members of a group. So that's one tip I can give few. If you're talking about interviews where, it's a panel of a technical interview followed by a behavioral interview, then you have to brush up on your technicals. I mean, that's a given, but you expect those interviews to be more, heavy on financial knowledge. So as an econ student, it's a misconception that you actually learn finance. Most of financial knowledge is actually learned by taking modules from business schools, or you have to learn it by when prepping for the interviews. So you have to brush up on your accounting, you have to know the 3-statement valuation, you have to learn all the different valuation methods like DCF, LBO, and comms analysis, and you have to prep some brain teasers as well, because that's very common. I'm pretty sure you guys know there are many websites where you can use to, prep for it. So mergers and acquisitions is one, Wall Street Oasis is another, and you can watch videos on YouTube as well. There are many other YouTubers who do these kind of videos. Sorry, bro.
I'm not the only one.
Yeah, but as for the behavioral part, one tip I can give you is to prep examples based on the values that are espoused by the firm. So for instance, if you go on the Barclays website or the Morgan Stanley website or the Goldman Sachs website, you'll see the list of values, the firm values, and you prep examples from there. For instance, Barclays has a value called stewardship, which is leaving things better than when you found them. So what you can do is actually prep examples from your own life or from your clubs and societies where you left something better than when you found it. It could be a project that you spearheaded that produced a desirable result for the team. It could be you identifying a problem and offering a solution even when no one thought to even tackle this issue in the first place. So things like that. And just to take note as well, you don't want to come across as very rehearsed. What I usually do is, it might not be the technique for everyone, but I just like to write down points and just wing it in the interviews. So that's what I do.
Works for him.
Works for me.
Okay, anyway, you were mentioning that you did something extra that is not part of the spring weeks,
That's right.
internships, or within Warwick, which you mentioned is LAH.
Yes.
So maybe you could just give a very brief description of what LAH is and whether you would recommend all these kind of private projects or ventures to boost your application.
Well, so I actually get this question a lot. Many of my friends actually approach me and ask me, what is it about? So LAH is actually my passion project. I started in 2019/2020. So it's actually the first integrated social consultancy and career services platform. So on one hand, I have a service called LA Assist, which is a peer support platform, which is open to anyone of all age, of all races. Anyone has a problem, they can book an appointment and speak to someone on my team. They can speak to me about any issue, no judgments. So it's basically a service where I lend a listening ear to anyone seeking advice or seeking recourse, or someone who's just feeling lonely, especially during COVID. And I received many calls from people who are struggling with some mental health issues, and I was there to listen. My team was there to listen to them, and we provide direction to aid resources as well. So right now my company has actually tie-ups and affiliations with several non-profits which we can redirect people who need help to. So that's LA Assist, and LA Apply is my career services platform, where all profits generated from LA Apply are actually channeled back to LA Assist in the form of providing vouchers to needy families for meals, subsidizing some expenses, for instance, groceries, for underprivileged individuals. So LA Apply is a service where I use my experiences applying to consulting, applying to investment banking, my assessment center experiences, all those to help students especially to get internships or graduate roles in leading investment banks and consulting firms. But of course, it's not limited to that. I've helped people get into marketing as well, but generally that's my area of expertise. And I coach them through the interview process. I help them refine their CV, and I help them prep for assessment centers and technical interviews that may come up in the whole process. So that's something I'm very proud of, LAH, and it's something I seek to continue doing even when I start working. But back to your question, you were asking about the relevance of these external passion projects, right, to applications. Well, I think I wouldn't say it will help massively, but I would say it showcases another side to you. So most applicants are the traditional ones from, economics or finance. They participate in finance societies on campus. They probably play a sport, but those are very common, and it's hard to differentiate yourself, from the crowd. But if you start something of your own, or if you pursue a passion like what I did when I noticed the asymmetric information gap in the social services sector in Singapore, if you start something on your own that you're passionate about, I think it showcases another dimension to your personality, and it adds to your application, definitely. I guess the common perception of economic students, especially, or finance students, are you hear this term like hardos, and people who are just gunning for investment banking or the high finance jobs from the first year. Well, I mean, you can't blame them for prepping early, but to differentiate yourself and to really show that you have a life outside of just chasing these dreams and studying every day to get your first class to apply. I think that showcasing this side of a more humane side, maybe it doesn't have to be a social enterprise. It can be, I have friends who DJ on the side at clubs on the weekends. I have friends who start an eyelash business on Instagram, and I think this showcases entrepreneurship, which is very relevant to investment banking, because you know the ins and outs of businesses from an early stage, and if you are involved in the whole process from setting up the website to marketing, I think it makes you more well-rounded. And when it comes to evaluating businesses in the future, which is what you'll do in investment banking, you'll be more appreciative of the nuances in the modeling. You'll be more appreciative of the business model, the revenue drivers of the business, as opposed to just someone who just came in solely from an academic perspective. So my advice would be to start a venture of your own. It can be anything, as long as you're passionate about it. And most importantly, you must show consistency, right? I think that's important. Some people, they can tell. The interviews have seen everyone, so many people before, so many applicants. They can tell if someone's not genuine and just starting something for the sake of the CV. So I think if you were to start something, I think it's best to plan ahead and perhaps start it in your first year or your second year, so you have a longer runway to showcase consistency and a track record of results. That's my advice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's about it. I hope it has been useful for you. If you want to check out LAH, I'll link it in the description box below. And if you want to maybe ask Aaron more questions, you could either do it through LAH, but I'll also link his Instagram. I'll also link his Instagram down below. So do sure to give it a follow. Anyway, that's all for today. I'll see you again next week. Bye!